Welcome back to another episode of Virginia is for Realtors. I am fortunate to be joined by Joy Deevy with the Compass Group. Joy, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Outstanding. I am doing well myself. I got a clean bill of health from the dentist just a little bit ago. So based on how much candy I eat, that's actually surprising because that's kind of my go-to. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. You and I met recently on a transaction where you had been the listing agent and you had received a letter from another lender. And then suddenly you get a phone call from me saying, hey, I'm the new loan officer on this deal. And we'll kind of go into from the listing agent side, how you feel about that happening. But I would like to start this off with kind of an overview of your journey to becoming a realtor. Share with us, where did you grow up? Let's start from there.
Okay, sure. I grew up in Alexandria, Virginia. I'm a local and pretty much stayed in the same house until after college. Once I graduated, I started traveling and living in different states after that. I lived overseas in Spain, in Prague, the Czech Republic, did some traveling in Germany, Switzerland, pretty much all of Western Europe. And I had a stint with the Fulbright Commission overseas in both the Czech Republic and Spain, in Madrid. And then I decided to move to Arizona, where it was much like Spain was. And I got a job with Marriott. There, and I was working in corporate housing. That was 1999. I first got my real estate license. It was required for the job of working with corporate housing. We were handling a lot of companies that were bringing in people for short-term stays in Arizona. And then my dad had a heart issue, and I moved back to Virginia and stayed with Marriott, and then decided to just go ahead and get my Virginia real estate license, simply because it was required in Arizona, and in Virginia it seemed I should have it there too. One of my friends reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to help me by chance? I started helping her after working at Marriott, and it just kind of fell in my lap. This job fell into my lap. I was not seeking it out in any way.
Well, very interesting. You started in Arizona with the Arizona licensing. I haven't talked to anybody who had an Arizona license first. Do you see a lot of differences in kind of what you remember from the market back there versus what we have here?
Yeah, I remember the requirement was 90 hours of schooling in person. And in Virginia, I remember it only being 60. And you do a reciprocity test. Once you're licensed in one state, you can do a reciprocity test. I didn't have to do all those hours in Virginia, but the Arizona licensure was much more difficult.
Probably wishing you'd had the 60 versus 90 going the other way.
I sure do. Yes. And then I decided to go ahead and be licensed in DC too, because I know so many people in the DC area that are always looking across the river. So that's what happened.
Well, very neat. Tell me a little bit more about your Marriott career. Was Marriott moving you around to these different places?
No, Marriott wasn't moving us around. Basically, it was a sales job, right? My job was to call on companies and see if we could help them with their short-term corporate housing.
Ah, okay.
So I had to reach out to relocation companies. I had to reach out to large employers in the area. My area was the Four Cornered States as well. I was basically giving tours to employees. I was going to the different cities. Like I remember I had to learn Albuquerque the night before giving a tour to a US West president. I had to learn the city quickly. We didn't have the GPS. We didn't have cell phones then.
Oh my goodness. So you're talking maps and
memorizing maps the night before. No joke. It's very easy out west because you can see mountains and you're like, okay, that's west, that's east. It's very so that's how I learned real estate, was studying maps really well and knowing my sense of direction quickly.
Well, that's pretty impressive because I'll be very honest, I could not do that. I'm very bad with directions, and land nav in the Marine Corps is a problem. Props to you to be able to learn it that quickly. Now, you breeze by this real quick, but for those of us who do not know what the Fulbright is, please go ahead and go into detail a little bit about that.
Sure. The Fulbright Commission is an organization that helps students overseas as well as in the United States who want to study, and they have to be, quite academically successful in order to get, accepted into the program. I was assisting those folks that wanted to get a scholarship to be able to study in the country that they wanted to go to. Oh. I worked in the different commissions, again, one in Prague and one in Madrid. I was giving presentations to students, learning about all the universities in the United States to educate them on possibilities for them to study abroad.
That is very unique thing that I had not heard of before. That's really cool. Where was your favorite place to live on the overseas front?
I have to say that Prague was one of my favorite places.
Okay.
The people were amazing. They were just so down to earth. The history of the country, there was so much to learn, and the buildings, the architecture was so beautiful. The Charles Bridge, the Prague Castle, just everything was just really neat to see. And it was still kind of going back in time a little bit more than the other countries that I had been to. Those had been more, upgraded and just redone and renovated. That's what was unique, was definitely Prague was one of my favorite places. And I'm still friends with people from that time frame.
That is that's amazing and very cool. How long did you get to live in Prague?
I was there 7 months total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you have these experiences with Marriott, with the Fulbright Commission, and then you mentioned you received your real estate license, and then you kind of get reached out to by a friend that says, "Hey, can you help me on this?" At that point, had you thought at all, this is going to be my career, or this was just you had no intention of going the real estate route, and this opened your eyes? How'd that work?
It sure did open my eyes. I had no intent
Okay.
or intention to that be my career. And
Right.
so the friend that I was helping, she decided one day to go to another company. And when she decided to leave, I was like, whoa, that's a big move. I just was like, what? I think I can do this job. I'll just stay here. I like this office. And I really didn't want to move. I just stayed there and started doing the business. And I can remember telling my mom, I said, this business is nuts. And she's like, well, give it a couple of years. I remember saying to her after 6 months how crazy it was. I gave it 2 years, and here I am 20 years later, still doing it.
Just gonna give it another 2 years,
Gonna do another 2 years.
Let's see how it goes. Now it's 1999. You're starting this path, real estate, kind of in the Northern Virginia area. Is that the time frame that we're talking about?
Yeah, around 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give us some just jaw-dropping. This house I showed last week was 1.5, and I remember looking at this when it was 240,000. Or what version of that do you have for us?
Yes, I mean, condos were $80,000. Remember showing those. And
I'll
those
take
are now,
12 of them if you have those available for
Yes.
me in Alexandria.
Yeah, and that's like a parking spot price,
Right.
now, for example. Things have really changed. We did our contracts handwritten in the office
Mhm.
against carbon copy paper. We had to go to clients' houses to get their signatures. The hours were longer and things were very inefficient, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
In comparison to now, no DocuSign back then.
That's right, no DocuSign. But one thing we did do more of back then, I would say, is had more conversations with people, more face to face, and I felt like we had more time with our clients. So because things are more fast paced these days, that I feel has gone a little bit to the wayside.
Here's a question for you. Since we just came off one of the crazy, crazy market that we were in most of last summer, did you ever do a sight unseen in those early years?
Yes. So this
Wow.
past
Okay.
year was very similar to what 2003, 4, and 5 were in the
Okay. Right.
And so, yes, people did want to write offers sight unseen. With the photography that we have and the 3D tours that you see now more,
Mhm.
I think people are feeling a little bit more comfortable to do that. But I think that it's still good to get into the property, no matter what year we're in and what the technology is. It's still important to see it, feel it, to make sure it's right.
For sure. And I think there's going to be a lot of buyer's remorse as we go down the pipeline from kind of this experience, I believe. Now, you have this diverse skill set that you've acquired kind of over the years. What is the one thing that you feel like has really benefited you from your previous experiences to transitioning into your real estate career?
I think one of the biggest things that I didn't realize until I learned this is actually a technical term for the different personality types, the DISC test, right?
Mhm.
DISC.
Yep.
So every time I met a client, this is in my previous job too, is that you want to know what is the way that they like to be communicated to. How do they think? When you give them information, how are they going to absorb that? You understand their way of being, right? I found that like a D personality is one that just wants the facts rather quickly, and they're going to make quick decisions. Someone who's an I personality is someone who likes to hear compliments or hear like they're making a good decision or a lot of feedback.
Mm-hmm.
The S personality wants to know, okay, is this safe? Is this risk-free? Am I going to be okay? Can I get out of this? And then the C personality wants to know all the stats of what did this home sell for 5 years ago? What did it sell for 4 years ago? And 3, 2, 1. There's also a combination of these personalities. It could be a D and an I and an S and a C. And I didn't know that existed, but when I first started in sales, I was trying to understand, how does someone want to be communicated to? And that to me is super important. Basic sales 101.
That is a great example, because how you're going to communicate to an engineer is completely different than how you're going to communicate to someone who runs a car dealership. And that's a very valid point that I would recommend to the new agents listening to this too. If they haven't taken a disc test on themselves, they may be interested to see what they come back as, because as a business owner, that's something that we've started incorporating, because if you have a processor, then that person is not necessarily going to be someone that you would want as a D for your processor role, and the different personalities for a loan officer too. That's very interesting, that angle to look at. Well, Joy, when we come back, we're going to talk about your first year as a real estate agent going forward and talk about some of the things that you still do from that first year. We'll be right back with Joy Deevy. All right, welcome back. We are here with Joy Deevy. Joy, let's talk about that first year as a real estate agent. I haven't really gone into kind of how much business you do right now and all those things, but you are a major producer. Tell me about that first 12 months of fear, or maybe you were out of the gates gung-ho, this is no problem. Did you set goals in that first year? Were you kind of winging it? How did it go for you?
All right, I love that question, because I was just going to answer that. Yes, setting goals is what gets me through every year in real estate. I have to have the goals. That first year, I literally just wanted to be able to cover my costs, my living expenses, okay? Because what I had seen that first year, we're dealing with people. We're dealing with people making decisions based on lifestyles, right? Not business decisions per se, right? Mm-hmm. This is emotion, and things happen in people's lives. Good things happen, bad things happen. And I was like, wow, this is not really because I was used to working with businesses and employees and working with financials. And this was just all about emotion. And so that's why the year felt haphazard. I just had to reach out to lots of people, tell them that I was in the business. That was a key thing. I also did lots of open houses. Almost every weekend I did an open house. I would ask other agents in the office.
You recommend that for new agents? Is that something you think they should be doing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Open houses are a great way to still be in front of someone and still ask, can I apply for the job of being your agent? Mm-hmm. And some of them will say, I already have an agent, and some will not. And you can ask questions. Do you have a representation agreement? I'm just curious. And then say, I would love to apply for the job if you don't. It was a great way for me to meet people, to see if I liked them and to see if they liked me.
And see if you'd be a good fit right off the bat, because you have that face-to-face personality of getting to see them, getting to talk to them. And even if they have somebody, if they start talking to you and they're like, wow, that person hadn't mentioned any of these things, that might be that in that you get to become their agents. But you started off kind of trying to find open houses from other agents. Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, open houses and just reaching out to as many people as I could. I made a list of everybody that I knew, about maybe it was 200, 300 people long, and just everybody that I knew, even if they were in the United States. And I just made it a point to reach out to these people and either email them or call them and just let them know what I was doing. People don't know that you're an agent unless you tell them you are.
Yes.
The assumption is that, oh, everybody knows I'm in real estate now because I posted on social media. That's not the case. They really don't. You have to make a direct announcement about it.
And on that point, as a loan officer, nothing burns you more than if you did a refinance for somebody and then 6 months later or 9 months later, you see them on Facebook celebrating their new loan at their new house. I've had experiences where somebody has done that and they go, oh, I didn't know you could help on purchase loans. I thought you just did refinances. And I've heard from agents too, where if somebody walks into a builder why would Joe Schmo off the street automatically assume that you would be able to help them with new construction if you had helped them with getting in a lease a year ago? I think for new agents out there, like you talked about, they need to know that you're in real estate and can help with all aspects of it, not just one particular one.
Absolutely. Calling and asking the clients, hey, what are you interested in doing this year? Do you have any real estate goals? Asking those questions, and then even asking the harder question, could you give me a call if I could ever help you? Or is there anyone that might be needing my services? I'm ready to help and I'm ready to go. So, yep, it's asking those questions.
Outstanding. Now, when you got into the business there, did you align yourself with a mentor in the beginning? How did that go for you?
I did work with someone in a real estate office, my friend who needed assistance, right? So it started that way. And then when Coldwell Banker came in to buy the company I was at, she decided to go to another company. And I just decided, hey, I loved it here. I'm just going to stay. And I thought she might be getting out of the business. So I stayed there and I just tried to learn as much as possible from the agents in my office. That's one thing I always did. I was in the office and all the agents, the older agents saw that. And they came to me and said, hey, do you want to do this? Or, hey, so being in the area and always there was helpful.
With your experience, do you find that new agents that do come to the office on a consistent basis, those are going to be the ones that make it? Because it is a very difficult business to be a real estate agent or a loan officer. And do you find that's almost one of the common denominators you see, that they're in the office?
The thing is this, because of COVID, the office has changed up a little bit. I think that I would normally say yes, but because of COVID, we're starting to see people not come into the office. The key now is, as things change with our technology and how offices are being these days, is to make sure that they know about you. Reach out to agents. I would tell the first year agent, reach out to other agents and say, is there anything I can do to help you? I'm not as busy as you are. I'd love to help you if you're in a time crunch. I'd love to do a showing for you if you want me to do your open house, whatever you need, because I know you're busy. And that is huge.
Yeah, very valid point. Let's talk about like your first transaction. You're over at the Coldwell Banker now. I don't know if it closed right before then or not, but talk about that first one for you.
I did meet these folks at an open house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ding, ding. Yep. Open house. Okay.
And I showed them, I remember a townhome, and they seemed to start having buying signals, meaning placing furniture. Oh, this would look great here, etc. And I just asked them, do you guys want to put in an offer? And they looked at each other and they said, well, yeah, why not? Let's do it. So we had to go back to the office and everything's handwritten.
Right.
It's all, template forms filled in, carbon copy. I just went through the contract paragraph by paragraph. It was my first real estate transaction. They had no idea that it was. Of course, I didn't tell them that it was. and it turned out well. And I think I helped them 5 times after that.
Oh my goodness. And now, did they ever learn that was your first transaction on like deal 4 or anything like that?
No, I never said a word. I never said a word to this day. If they're watching this, they'll know. But
now you made an interesting point for the open house and a signal that you saw. So if I'm a new agent and okay, I'm going to have my first open house, talk a little bit more about that. You have people come by, and what are you seeing that these are serious people? These aren't the tire kicker neighbors. What were some of the things that was drawing your attention?
The first thing I do is find out who's going to be willing to talk to me, right? The S and C buyer are probably not. They're probably going to want to make up a name when they come in. They're not going to say that they're working. They don't even want to talk to you, really, anybody. They're more protected, right, of their information, which I respect, right? It's the I buyer. The D and the I buyer combination is great. The higher I and then the D, they want to talk to somebody and they want somebody else to help them, right? So they realize that we are real estate professionals and that we're doing this job for a reason, and we could probably help them get it done quicker, faster, and more successfully. Those are the people I look for in an open house when I'm talking to them.
Wow.
And yes. And
great strategy. I hope that people are paying attention to that point right now. I've been at plenty of open houses and I'm thinking through some of the different people that I've seen walk in the door and how those conversations go, but please continue.
Yeah. So once I know I can latch on to the ones that I know will have the personality to want to talk to me, then I'll ask them for the relationship to begin. I said, is it okay if I could be your agent? Could I apply for the job of being your agent? And they'll look at me like, whoa. And yeah, why not? And then I'll get their information. I'll have them either write it down. And sometimes I'll immediately after when they're walking through the house, I'll even text them to make sure the number's good, just to say, I'm so excited to help you guys. See me after to tell me what you think about the house. So that gets the conversation going. And
Very cool.
the busier open houses are tough to have those conversations. I like the
Right.
homes that are not so busy, where you might just have 10 groups or 15 groups through. I would routinely get at least one buyer from an open, if not two. That was my goal. If I'm going to spend 4 hours on my Sunday, my goal is to attract at least one buyer, if not two, to work with me. And I would set the appointments
Yeah.
at that time. It was great.
That's a great goal to have for those. You met your first transaction at this open house. Walk me through what happened. You wrote the contract. Did they get that house? Was that the one? And
That one was the one. And sometimes it does happen that way. That's the other key, is to be able to read the client to see if they're really excited. You can kind of see it in their eyes. You can kind of see it with the words that they use, the body language that they use with their significant other. And I think I saw that and I'm like, wow, these people really like this. Why not ask them if they want to put in an offer? Yeah, they did end up winning that house, and we're super happy with it. I would say that the best thing for a new agent to do is be comfortable with being uncomfortable with the questions that you need to ask to get the business. Because if it's too hard to ask questions, you need to practice and keep asking.
Well, at the end of the day, we are in sales, and the houses are generally not going to sell themselves, and the buyers are generally not just going to walk into your lap. You need to put yourself out there.
Yes.
Here's a question for you. If you're mentoring first year you, what are some of the things that you would have spent more time on?
That's a great question. I would have spent more time on qualifying people and making sure they were real. Sometimes people do just come into open houses, or people do just call you and they just want to see something, or hey, they think that they want to buy a house. And then when you meet with them and ask them to sign your representation agreement, and they decide not to because it's uncomfortable, and then you still end up working with them. This is back in the day when it wasn't required, and you still work with them, and then they disappear.
Right.
Well, the red flags were there. And if I was able to determine that more quickly and work with people that wanted to work with me the way I work, that's how I was going to be more successful quicker.
Did you see that there was a pattern based on their disc profile that you would kind of have given to that person? Was it more D's that would walk? Was it more the S's that you would run into that would be suddenly they're gone type thing?
I was more the eyes, I think, now that
Okay.
I'm thinking back to some of the personalities. When an S and C commit, they're pretty much made that decision. It takes a while for them to get there, but once they get there, they're in. It was sometimes the I personality that was like more blasé about it, and then decided just to change their mind.
I'm definitely thinking in my head, I know I am an S, but I'm trying to remember if it's partly D or which way I went. I do look at a lot of information too sometimes before making decisions. Since I'm having this internal conversation in my head, like, that sounds like me. Once I commit, I'm pretty much in. All right. So that's one thing you would have done more on. What was something that you spent a lot of time on, you would have gone the other way? Like, I didn't need to do that part.
That first year, probably I didn't need to stress about it so much. The first year is so tough, or at least it was for me. I think just not stressing about it and knowing that if you're doing everything consistently, the business will come. It has to, right? Not to stress about where is it coming from, but just keep doing the things that you should do to reach out to clients, to make phone calls, to do your emails, and let everybody know what you're doing, calling them to ask how they're doing. Just if you stay on track with the responsibilities and the daily commitments, it's going to happen.
Consistent practice of
Yes.
being the sales professional. What are some of the things that you've had this career? What are some of the things some common mistakes that you see first year agents make that if you were advising them, you'd say, don't do that?
I would say that they need to have more face-to-face conversations and less of texting.
Okay.
You do have to be comfortable with confrontation in this job, and you do have to be comfortable with telling it like it is to clients in the way that they would like to receive that information. I'm talking about statistically, just making sure that you're having conversations with people and not text, right? Text, you can't tell tone. You can't tell what they're really thinking. You can misinterpret and you can make assumptions. It's really best to stop texting so much. And even in negotiations with agents, just pick up the phone and have conversations. Make a hook when you leave your message. Hey, give me a call. I want to talk to you about something very important. Only take 2 minutes. Give me a call right back. And you got to have a conversation as much as possible.
It's important for everybody. And that's a great point. I was thinking of some of the tougher conversations I've had to have recently, where whether it's in an email or a text, me telling you, hey, you're actually going to have to sell your house before you can purchase the next one because you don't have enough entitlement left, or whatever I'm going to say. I would much rather be able to tell you that over the phone and explain why, so you can hear the tone that I'm saying, here's the issue, versus just, sorry, this isn't going to work. Smiley face. That's not going to cut it. We need to do a little bit more than that. So that is a great point. New agents need to be making sure that they're having more face time with their clients, not hiding behind text, not hiding behind emails.
And that could be a Zoom, right? Let's
Yeah.
just say the client doesn't want to get together. It's like too much time or what have you, but
Right.
at least do a Zoom, because it's important to make a connection some way face to face.
Yep, absolutely. Do you have any other parting thoughts on your first year in business that you'd like to send to the new agents?
I would say just remember to ask other agents who've been in the business longer if they need help with anything, because that is so much appreciated.
Yep.
And to not give up, keep at it. It takes time. It takes time to build a business. It is not like the click of an Amazon button that your business all of a sudden is going to.
There's no business prime.
Right? There's no business prime. It does take time. It takes a year, 2, maybe 3 years to get consistent real estate business.
And that is a perfect point to end on this segment, because when we come back, Joy is going to talk about how she made it a career and where she's gone from that first year. We'll be right back. We're back with Joy Deevy. And Joy, I would like to talk about, you made it through that first year and you just took off like a rocket. So now you're in a career of real estate. You're not trying to survive, you're trying to grow. Let's talk about your transition from that first year to where you are now. Talk about that gap in between.
Sure. It definitely was a process. And my first year, I probably did $6 million in business. My next year, 9 million. The next year, 12 million. The next year, 15 million. And it just kept increasing. And it was that I felt rewarded by working so hard. I was like, hey, I'm actually making money based on how much effort I put in. That's what I love about sales. So that kept driving me to do better and better. That's kind of how I just kept going from there.
And your success builds on yourself because you're putting in the practices that allow you to continue to have the growth that you have. And you stick with a consistent pattern of doing those activities that result in that. That year 3 to 5 mark, what are you doing to keep that business growing? What are some of the activities?
I did a lot of activities. Again, besides generating clients as much as I can, doing open houses, I was doing all the paperwork. I was processing every contract, doing the home inspections. I was doing all the showings. It's showing up to settlement, doing the walkthroughs, just every bit of the real estate process, handling that, as well as trying to generate business as best I could. And it's just, again, consistency. I did it every day.
Yep.
Literally every day.
Monday through Sunday. We'll be there
Every
7 days
day.
a week.
Yep.
Yep.
I did.
So now, though, doing it for a long time, tell me, do you have a team that's under you for a lot of these activities? Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, I do now. And that was a smart move. This business is it's more fast paced now than it was when I got started in the business. And people expect attention right away. And with that, I learned that, I'm going to do better in my job if I can have assistance, if I can have somebody who's willing to show property, maybe handling all the transactions on the buyer side. Yes, I have buyer agents I have hired over the years, and I have a buyer agent currently who's full-time with me, and I have another showing agent that helps out occasionally. And that has been a game changer for me, and really helped me to enjoy the business more and have more time with my family.
That's a great point. And when did you feel that now's the time to make these changes, to start bringing on a buyer's agent?
A coach reached out to me in 2014. I'll never forget the call. I think I might have been in tears at that point, because I had 2 young boys, and again, working every single day, because again, trying to keep the business steady, but also growing slightly, right?
Right.
It's a job that's kind of like a restaurant. You have to stay on top of it. But when he was talking to me, he was asking questions like, how's your, life balance and how are your relationships? And
You
the
said,
tears
what's that?
I'm like, tears just were rolling down my eyes. I
Right.
was like, oh my goodness, I'm a mess on that side. you know? And I just been kind of suppressing it. And I didn't realize it because I was so driven to do the business. And in all these years, I've realized after talking to him, first of all, then him suggesting to go through a coaching program, which I did, which was amazing. My eyes just completely opened and it changed my life. And I've now learned the importance of life balance, relationships, making sure everyone that's around you is happy, that you're happy. And because when you are, you can flourish much more. So at the end of the day, real estate can be a numbers game, but it also can be a very enjoyable career if you manage it right, which I feel now I have, and I'm so much happier.
And that makes a big deal because burnout is real in the job. And the new agent listening to this, they probably can't relate to that yet, but at some point, somebody's going to be listening to this that can. You mentioned coaching, and I've often mentioned on the podcast that I am involved in a coaching program too. You started the coaching in 2014, but you took it to a next level. Tell me a little bit about how that went for you and your evolution.
Sure. The more I discovered about myself in that process, I learned that, my goodness, I want to be a coach too. I became certified in 2015 and recertified every 2 years since. And basically, my job, I feel, as giving back to the real estate agents who I care for and have worked with and have great relationships with now, is that I can help someone else not have all the pain that I had in this job, as much as the joy that I had. And I'd like to help people erase the pain because the pain was painful.
Yep.
And now I feel like it's kind of my purpose to help other agents discover what their purpose is in this job, to have more clarity, to have more courage, to have more influence about what they want to accomplish in real estate, and to be more productive, have more energy. And that's what I do in addition to running this real estate business.
Tell me about your typical client reaching out to you and saying, hey, I need help. And it could be in a matter of things. It could be, I need more production. My life balance is out of whack. Does it seem like everybody's different, or do you kind of have almost like not a template, but you see a common denominator over and over for people?
There's definitely common denominators for everyone. The pain points in everyone's life might be different, but the common denominator is still what they care about. They want to be valued. They want to be appreciated. They want to feel loved. They want to feel like they're making a difference in the world. And they just want to do a good job. And they want people to like them, right? That's the biggest common denominators that I have found. And so I have a 12-week program. I can actually even coach for a full year on different topics throughout the entire year. That's 4 12-week programs. And it's life-changing. And I've taken people through it, and I get just as much out of it as they do.
Yeah.
Because I learn about other people, I learn about what's important to them, and then it's like a connection. That's the other thing. We all want human connection. And that's what's kind of missing in a lot of businesses these days.
Yep.
Is that people are texting too much. They're not really spending time. They're not connecting with people. This program that I went through and now are helping people go through, it just opens up your eyes to what's important in life and what you should be focusing on to make yourself balanced.
Well, that's outstanding. The person listening to that, how are they going to get a hold of you? What's the best way to reach you for the coaching?
Yeah, I have a website at joydeevycoaching.com.
Okay.
It's real easy, and just request a time to meet with me. So I make it real simple.
That is outstanding. At what point do you think for an agent out there listening, you need a coach?
I will say this. I believe that every person needs a coach at any point in time. I grew up playing sports, and your coach can teach you how to do the right things the right way. They can open up your insights. They can actually see what you're really good at and help you progress that. All the athletes out there have coaches at every time of their career. And coaches are amazing people. And I had amazing coaches growing up, and it's made me want to be the best coach I can be for someone else. And it's highly rewarding for me.
Yeah.
I believe that everyone should have a coach.
Can you share a success story of one of your students that you've had recently?
Sure. Yes. Someone recently learned how to express herself to other people better. She didn't realize that she wasn't expressing herself, and it gave her more power to feel influential in her job. She told me in tears that you have totally helped me change the way I see things. That was very rewarding for me. I made a difference.
It
And I
was a
made
breakthrough for her.
right. What I do is about breakthroughs. That's
Yeah,
well put. Well put.
outstanding. The coaching is such a big part, and it sounds like you get enjoyment on both ends. You have the real estate that you enjoy still, and then also the coaching side, which is very unique in our business. And Deevy is spelled Deevy for those that are paying attention.
Yes.
For your real estate career, where's the next 12 months going? Or for the coaching, either or.
I really would like to help real estate agents, whoever wants my help. I have been in this business long enough. I know all the tricks of the trade. I know how to do negotiations. I know what the pain points are, and I know what families are feeling. Right, I'm living that. I know what families feel about this job. I know what sellers and buyers, what's important to them. I coach them as well. So yeah, it's all of it.
It's important to have a coach, and I couldn't stress that enough. Joy, thank you so much for sharing that part. When we come back, we're going to talk about lead generation and database management and what you're doing to continually be successful. We'll be right back with Joy Deevy. We're back with Joy Deevy, and Joy, we're going to talk about what you're doing to stay on top, and that involves the lead generation that you're doing now and your database management. So let's start it off with, how are you generating business now?
Okay, reaching out to clients is key. A lot of clients I've helped like 5 times over the years. There's been a consistent communication with these clients, touch points. Also, they have a trust level, right? It's their referrals. A lot of my business now is a lot of referrals of people, past clients, people in my sphere that know me, like me, trust me, and their referrals, people that they say, oh my gosh, you got to work with them. I did start out, I have to say, and I had no idea this was going to happen, but I say this: do something you love, because I was on a softball team.
Okay.
And I never talked real estate, and we were serious softball players. I played in college too. And this was like a fun co-ed team. Within 2 years of being on that team, I think I had 12 real estate transactions from the team. And we never talked real estate. They just saw that I loved playing the game. I was hard working at it. They were like, wow, she's really into this. And I think they just trusted me.
Yeah.
And I still to this day help people from that softball team.
Well, if you're a great teammate, you're probably going to be a great realtor. They enjoyed hanging out with you, so that helps.
Connection is key.
Connection is key. Absolutely. You're touching base with your past clients. They're sending you referrals. If you're brand new, what would you be doing to get some clients?
For a new person, I would recommend sending out a postcard to an area that you would like to work.
Okay.
And it does take a year, maybe 2, to like start having the calls come in, but stick to it.
Okay.
Giving information about the sales in the neighborhood is what people want. It's not about that you just sold a house. It's about, hey, this is what's going on in the marketplace. Giving them local knowledge about their neighborhood is key. If I were new, that's what I would do.
Because you never know when you're going to catch somebody where we just got a job offer to move to Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're going to be moving in 2 months, and that postcard could come at the right time. That's a good piece of advice. And one of my questions is, we all get presented with like shiny objects. So we got the newest bell and whistle over here that you should spend $125 a month on. What are some of the things that you found are worth spending on? And then the follow-up will be, what are some things not to spend your money on?
Definitely have a database, right? I purchased Top Producer years ago. I still have it. I have another CRM as well that I use, but I would say this: you definitely have to have a database that you plug all your details into. That's number one. I'm a little bit weird. I even have an Excel spreadsheet as well. I'm backing up to the technology to the backup.
Right.
And I keep track there of all the clients, all the addresses, the price of the home, all the details, because I want to know, again, I'm very goal oriented. I want to know, well, how many deals am I doing? Where am I at? That helped me. But yeah, definitely have a database.
So what's one that you spent money on that's still out there that you're like, don't do that one?
There's these websites like Home Snap and all these things that you can pay to be part of. I just never saw any return on that. And then also certain magazines paying lots of money for ads. That print stuff is still, I have never seen a return on that. Now that's just me, and maybe somebody out there has seen a return on that, but I haven't. So I would say those were the things, as a new agent, I wouldn't be spending money on that stuff.
I believe I'm on the back cover of a magazine that I can't remember a referral that I've ever gotten from it. That's been out there a long time. And so that's a good point. Well, let's go over the database management though, because that, as I've said on the podcast many times for new agents listening to this, that is one of the biggest things I did wrong in the beginning. Now, did you start right away? Every deal that I get is going in here, and I'm keeping notes. And to have the notes changed over the years, tell me about that.
Yes. When I started, it was top producer.
Okay.
So yes, every deal went into there, every address, every phone number, and notes, and that's key. And I would send out I think it was called a market snapshot back in the day from top producer. It's another touch, right? That's touching my clients every time there was a sale in their neighborhoods. Yes. And then also just sending out an email about the season, right? And then also a postcard to those same clients that I had worked with. Touching the clients as many times as possible. It's never too much, in my opinion, because it's just, again, the purpose of a touch is not necessarily the information that we're giving our clients, but instead it's that they remember that you're in real estate. And then when they think of real estate, they think of you.
That's a great point. There can't be too many. I mean, that's basically it. Now, do you make a habit of calling your past clients on a consistent basis, or do you have the team do that now for you? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, I still call clients, and I'll still call them up and say, hey, when's a good time for me to just stop by?
Nice.
Yeah, it's really important to do that as much as possible. And sometimes time is a constraint, and I wish I could do more of it, but that is the best way. People who enjoyed working with you, I don't think they mind if you were to stop in and maybe bring them a little gift, or whether it be a coffee mug or a pie or something, just to say, hey, I was thinking about you. I mean,
Right.
It's fun. For me, it's fun to do. So having that connection is key.
Have you ever done a client appreciation event?
Yes, I
Okay.
have. I did a very big client appreciation event, and this was 2016, actually.
Okay.
And so many clients loved it. We had face painters for the kids. It was at a beautiful park, all the food and drinks, and just lots of people. And people really enjoyed that. Again, it's another way to have people connect. And I think not just us with clients, but with each other. And that was a really fun event. So
I have not done one before, and the more I've been hearing from people that they've done them and how successful they have been, I think I'm going to step outside my comfort zone for 2022, and that's going to be one of my goals, is to do a client appreciation event. I just kind of have to figure out the best way to do it, but I think I'm going to throw that out here on the podcast and see if I stick to it.
I was just going to say, and make sure you invite your biggest cheerleaders, right? Those are the people that you would love to see again, because first of all, there's fun personalities. If they're promoting you, they're most likely high eyes. High eyes like to talk, and they're like to share. Those are the people that would enjoy an event like that. And make sure you reach out to them.
Well, definitely. I put together what I called my nifty 50 list, and there was more than that on there, but I just had to come up with a name for it. And I thought about, okay, which clients of my Rolodex here did I enjoy working with, and decided, all right, these are the people I'm going to touch base with a lot, because again, like you talked about, these are often they are eyes, and that they are spreading the gospel of Tanner, if you will, which you need those people out there to help your business. That is for sure. I wanted to wrap this up I'd asked about if you had a really funny story to share, but you had a better one for me on that you mentioned. So go ahead.
I've got a friend that does real estate in Colorado, and she wrote a book, The Real Estate Survival Guide. Her name's Rhonda Courtney, and I will tell you, her stories are unbelievable. And every time she shared them with me, I just cracked up so much. I recommend get the book, The Survival Guide to Real Estate.
Okay.
Okay. By Rhonda Courtney.
How many of those stories were yours? Did you contribute a little bit on those?
I might be in there one, but the rest of hers are insane. I mean, they're insanely funny, and you cannot make them up. So I really recommend that.
So. Well, awesome. Do you have any closing thoughts for us, for that new agent out there? Maybe it's a pep talk that you could give, something like that, for the new person listening to this.
Yeah, sure. Number one, if you can do it and feel comfortable, hire a coach. Number two, read books that are going to be good for your mind. One that comes to mind is The 4 Agreements. That's a book that talks about being impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. But reading positive books like that, that's going to fuel your mind and make you feel charged to go do business and share your gift of sales in real estate. I think that's my biggest recommendation.
Well, outstanding. Joy, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast today. You shared some outstanding knowledge with us, and I can't wait to see where your career goes. And I can't wait to see how many people are going to be in the coaching program with you because of this. So thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.